4, 5. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we have a quorum.
Yeah.
I would like to welcome everyone to the reorganizational meeting of the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board of Directors. And we're convening this at 5:04 on March 9th, Thursday, March 9th at 5:04. So the first order of business is to entertain a nomination for a board chair. Do I have a nomination? Okay, Kim?
I nominate Suzanne Buck.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. Judd.
Okay, thank you, Judd. Are there any other nominations from among the board for a board chair? Hearing none, I would ask that board members vote on the nomination of Suzanne Buck to serve as the board chair from for the coming year, from now through our March meeting in 2023. A motion, Kim?
Make the motion to accept Suzanne Buck as our chairperson for the coming year until March of 2023.
Thank you.
I will second it. Nick?
Nick? Thank you, Nick. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. The Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District now has a board chair to whom I will turn over the responsibilities of running the rest of the meeting. Oh, yes. Oh, excuse me. My apologies. We also need to elect a vice chair.
Oh, Dana, are you asking me to pick up and continue looking for vice chair and a secretary?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Do we have any nominations for the position of vice chair?
I will nominate Kim Farnham. Nick?
Nick has nominated Kim Farnham for vice chair. Is there a second?
I second Missy.
It's been seconded by Missy as vice chair for the school year. Is there any further discussion or any other further nominations from the floor? Hearing no discussion and seeing no hands waving, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of Kim Farnham as vice chair for the board for the next year, please raise your hands or say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. We now need a nomination for board secretary. This is a position that Lorraine held last year, but Lorraine did not run this past year for board. So is there someone you'd like to nominate for board secretary? The board secretary fills in when Linda is not present or when we've gone into executive session, and then lets Linda know time out of executive session and any activity that comes after executive session, and then when the board ends. So not a lot of work to do, hopefully. Missy.
I just had a quick question. I believe WIB board members are on our list and/or new board representatives from other districts. At what point do we include them in these nominations and know who they are?
We will know after Monday and I believe it's Tuesday for Mount Abe. Is that right, Steve? Tuesdays is Mount Abe?
I'm not clear what the question is on that.
So let me clarify, I think Missy was referring to the agenda item that had WIB members. No WIB members have been voted on yet, and it may actually be the April meeting before those members are fully presented. We have to get a recommendation from the Addison County Workforce Alliance, which is basically the WIB board, to make a recommendation to us, and then we can take action on that. We thought we might have that for this evening, but that process has not yet been fulfilled.
Okay, because Missy also asked about board members, so that was why I
sorry.
asked Steve about.
Yep.
I can say that Kim and myself were both approved by the board last night.
Oh, okay. So then it's Addison Northwest. I've been told that Christina has been told that she is coming back, but that Mike's position has yet to be filled by Addison Northwest. And then Monday night, this coming Monday night, ACSD will meet and decide their other representative.
Thank you. I was asking the question so as not to exclude them from these board appointments. Thank you.
If it's the board's pleasure, we can wait on secretary. If you think that some new person might like to take that role on, or maybe Christina might like to take it when she.
Yes.
I really hate to appoint people and vote them in if they're not present.
So Suzanne, you might want to take a motion to just have someone serve as secretary for this evening's meeting, and then postpone the reorganization component of the secretary until the April meeting.
Okay.
Linda did join as an FYI.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then
Yeah. And Linda, we have the beginning of the meeting written down for you, so we'll get you caught up.
Okay, the problem was you had sent two different links, one for Zoom and one for Meet. So, yeah, I've been sitting here since 10 of waiting for you all.
Yeah, we'll correct that, Linda. That was a transition when we went to Thursdays.
Thank
And
you.
I'll take responsibility for that. I put the calendar invitation out there so that everybody would know it was Thursday, but I didn't have the link, and I forgot to synchronize with others.
Okay. The other thing is I cannot see the list of participants, so I have no way of knowing if there's anybody other than what I see on my screen. So it's really hard for me to do a list of people in the minutes if I can't see that list.
And
Just to let you know.
thank you. So the other thing is right now, all we have been working on, Linda, is just board reorganization. And I have asked that everyone that's not board mute themselves and put their cameras on so that we can see them. But Judd has his hand up. Judd?
Linda, I do have access to that list. I can write it down and then send it to you if you want.
I can see the 16 pictures on the screen. What I can't see is if there's anybody besides those 16.
There are not, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if the board would like to make a motion to hold off on the board reorganization for secretary position till next meeting, could we have a motion to do so?
So moved, Judd?
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Kim. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of holding the board reorganization for the secretary position to next meeting, please signify by either raising your hands or saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Now I will proceed with the rest of the regular board meeting, and I'd like to introduce board members. So I will start with going to my right as I see you on my screen. Kim?
My name is Kim Farnham. I live in New Haven, and I'm the community at large representative from the Mount Abraham School District.
Judd?
Judd Markowski, resident of Bridport, and WIB member.
Steve?
Steve Rooney, I'm from Starksboro, and I represent the Mount Abe Unified School District.
Missy?
Missy Beckwith, and I am a Workforce Investment Board member.
Nick?
Nick Colston, living in Shoreham, and I represent ACSD community at large.
And then Dana?
Dana Peterson, Superintendent Director, Patricia A. Hannaford, Regional Technical School District.
And Jay, who's somewhere in A208, I think.
Jay Setzel, Assistant Director for the Career Center.
Thank you. And then would our guests like to introduce themselves? And I'm just going to start with where I see them on my screen. Dr. Love? Sorry, I was supposed to call you Tiffany.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Love, and I am the Chief Nursing Officer for Porter Medical Center.
Thank you. Welcome. Gretchen?
Gretchen Bailey.
Gretchen, could you put your camera on, please, after you mute yourself? Brenda?
Not working.
Brenda?
I'm Brenda Logie. I'm the school counselor for the Career Center.
Thank you. Linda?
Sorry, Linda Barrett, clerk.
Hugh?
Hugh McLaughlin, substitute teacher.
Great to have you. Wendy?
Wendy Pratt, IB and Curriculum Coordinator at the Career Center.
Thank you. And Lorraine?
I had to look for my unmute. Lorraine Morse, Middlebury resident.
New title.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Oh, I'll
It was
second.
Moved by Kim and seconded by Judd to
Correct.
approve the agenda as printed. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Do we have any comments from visitors?
Yes, I want, this is Gretchen.
Gretchen?
I was wondering when the board will be meeting in person at 8208.
We have not decided that, and that will be discussed later on.
Thank you.
What was that, Gretchen? Sorry.
I said thank you.
You're welcome. Is that all for visitor comments? Gretchen, would you mind? Thank you. If you mute, there's a wicked echo from your mic. Thank you. Dana, correspondence, donations?
Lorraine has a comment, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lorraine. I didn't see your hand.
That's right. I just wanted to congratulate the board on the budget passing and the project passing, and thank the public for the overwhelming support that they got for it.
Thank you, Lorraine. And Lorraine, you had a large part in the community engagement piece on helping that bond pass. So thank you for all of your hard work on that. Moving on, Dana, correspondence, donations?
Yes, we have two donations. They are on the agenda under action, and those are for an engine donation and for some supplies and materials to support a variety of programs. And I will say more about those when we get down to the action section of the agenda. There should be information in the board packet on both of those items, but I will do a brief overview when we get to that point.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We approved the agenda, which includes as the consent agenda, the minutes and the monthly accounts that were payable. Were there any reason to pull out the minutes? Or are they okay as they are? I don't see any hands raising, so I'm going to say those are fine. Nick, do you have the accounts payable with you, or? If you don't, I think I have them.
You can't hear me, I'm sorry. Building and equipment reserve, the BERF, 3,258 cents. General fund, 69,970 and 57 cents. Revolving fund, 4,303 and 85 cents. Nothing for the revolving fund. Student activities, $1,211.00. And three payrolls. One for 86,073 and 14 cents. The second one, which was a partial, I guess, 49,470 and 31 cents. And the second part of that is 35,450 and 28 cents. All of these were for February month.
Yes, for clarification, Nick, if you want, that was split. There were two payrolls instead of having one payroll because of contractual obligations. That was split into two.
Yeah.
So when you combine those, that would have been the second payroll for the month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That looks fine, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the action agenda, board meeting schedule for July 22 through March 23. We have moved to the second Thursday, right? Today's Thursday. Yeah, second Thursday. It's been a long week. Second Thursday of the month from 5 to 6:30-ish through the end of June, but I'm wondering what are people's pleasure going on after June? Anybody have any thoughts?
I have no issues with it staying as
No
it
issues.
is.
Okay,
Thursday's a better day for me than Wednesday.
okay.
I'm fine with
Anybody
it.
else?
I'm fine
Kim's
with it.
fine?
Thank you.
Feels good to me.
Good with Judd, good with Missy. So may I have a motion then to set our monthly board meetings from July 22 through March 23 for the second Thursday of each month, starting at 5.
So moved.
It's been moved by Steve and seconded by Judd. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your
Aye.
hands. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Dana, the engine donation and the supplies and materials, which I believe were from Aubuchon's.
Yes, that's correct, Suzanne. So we have an engine donation that is worth approximately $9,000 that is coming to us from Allegiance Trucks. The engine itself is a Cummins engine, and that is being donated as an educational tool because the engine is not functioning and cannot be installed, but it has been identified as a useful training tool by our instructor, John Curler. And so I would entertain a motion to accept that Cummins engine donation worth approximately $9,000, and we will get that to the donor from Allegiance Trucking that happens to also be a member of the Transportation Advisory Board.
Here, so moved.
Wow, Judd.
I'm excited about that big red engine.
Don't give me a heart attack sitting here. All right, so Judd has moved that we accept the Cummins engine with an approximate value of $9,000 for the diesel program. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Kim. Kim and Steve, everyone wants to second it. Is there any discussion on the motion? Nick?
Oh, I'm muted. No, I'm not. How did it get damaged?
Dana?
It was not damaged. It was taken out of service. It was a discontinued model, and in order for them to donate it, they had to actually put a hole in the engine to say that it could not be used as a functioning engine for transportation purposes. So it can only be used for student training. And that's the way that we have an agreement that I have to sign if this is accepted, that says that we will not use it to put into an operating vehicle, but it can't be used anyway. So that's just one of the ways that they dispense of their equipment.
Are we going to try and plug the hole?
No, we are not. We're going to accept it and use it as a training tool.
Okay, good.
We would be in violation of their agreement as well as in violation of transportation safety if we tried to do that, I think.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Is there any other questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion's passed.
Okay, so the second item, Suzanne, is actually it's multiple items, and those are from Aubuchon, and I believe there was a note in your packet that explained that. And the gist is that those materials were supposed to be retired by being junked, and the Renee Carpenter was, as the store manager, asked if that could be made as a donation, and Forney, the supplier, said yes, they could. So we have quite a long list of tools, materials, and supplies that are being offered to the Career Center. John Curler went over the entire list and is planning, upon acceptance of this donation, to distribute them to a variety of programs and use them for the maintenance department if they don't have another home. But they include things such as welding beanies, gloves, electrodes, hammers, pouches, routers, and a variety of other, including safety glasses and welding goggles, etc. So there is quite a long list, and it would be my recommendation for the board to entertain a motion to accept all of those tools, materials, and supplies graciously, and we will write a thank you note to Aubuchon's for thinking of us before just dispensing with those materials as they were asked to do. Once again, this is a supply chain change, and those materials are being decommissioned. They're not, that line is being discontinued. And so we are the direct beneficiaries of some creative thinking on the part of the manager, who happens to be a Career Center graduate.
Cool. Jen?
Seventh from the bottom of that list, I believe it's a typo and it's a power activated tool. I'm willing to bet that's supposed to say powder activated because of what Ramset builds. And those are powdered through if I'm not mistaken, they're powdered through a basically a modified 22 caliber bullet round that you strike with a hammer. And I just wonder if there's any reason not to accept that donation into the school. It is a totally normal building tool that all of us have in the trades, but I just wonder about having those explosives, if there's any reason not to have those on site.
We have a number of called nail guns and other devices that have a variety of different power mechanisms. On the surface, I don't see any policy violation in what we have.
Okay, thank you.
If I find out otherwise, we will decommission that particular device. That may not make its way into the training programs that we have. It may be something that John reserves for himself. Or for the facilities.
Otherwise, I'm just as excited about that as the engine.
So Judd, in your excitement, would you like to make a motion?
I'd be happy to, but doesn't somebody else want to? So moved. I would love to accept everything, but I just question the powder pins. Other than that, I think it looks great.
Great. Is there a second to Judd's enthusiastic motion? Missy? It's been moved and seconded to accept the Abishon hardware donation with the one question around the Ramset powder actuated tool, about whether that can be used by students. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. I have the next item on the agenda is appoint committees for facilities, budget and policy, community engagement, negotiations. Would the board be willing to leave the committees as they are for their committee meetings that may be scheduled this month, and next month we would fulfill all the committee appointments once we have all new members, hopefully on the board?
So moved.
Seconded. I was just gonna, I think that seems fair to the new board members, so they don't feel like they're walking into something that's already organized.
Okay.
Suzanne, I do have a question, and that is about facilities. We may lose a quorum if we don't have at least a temporary volunteer to meet with us on the 28th. We do have some business that we will have to transact, and if there's going to be a recommendation to the board, it would be beneficial if we had a complement that would constitute a quorum.
I would volunteer for that.
Okay. So, Judd, are you volunteering to stay on permanently or just to cover the 28th until next meeting?
I think just cover the 28th, and then when we do the reorganization, we can all discuss it then.
Okay. So
Thank
I
you.
believe between Missy and Steve, there is a motion and a second to hold off on appointing committees for facilities, budget and policy, community engagement, negotiations, and setting their appropriate times until the next meeting, with the exception that Judd will fill in for facilities this month. Is there any discussion on that rather long-winded motion? Kim? And then Judd?
Because we do have staff negotiations at the end of the month, I think the current members should be, included in that piece because there is no change.
So can we do that as a friendly amendment to the motion?
I think it's, yes.
Okay. So the motion is now that we will wait, we will hold on appointing committees for facilities, budget and policy, community engagement, negotiations, with the exception of negotiations, that committee will stay as it is. And for facilities, we will add Judd in for this month, and then we will set facilities committee in April. Did I get it right, Judd?
I think you did get it right. My question was, can I just get the date and time of that facilities meeting so I have it written down here?
Judd, that's March 28th at 9:30 a.m.
March 28th.
And I will send you an invitation while Suzanne is conducting the rest of the business. That way you'll know.
Great, thank you so much. That's wicked helpful.
Yep, you're welcome.
So with that, and I am not going to repeat that motion, because I probably won't get it word for word again. Is there any further discussion on the amended friendly motion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your Zoom hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Monitoring policies. Dana, are you covering those, or is Jay, or who's covering those tonight?
I am covering those monitoring policies. Yes, give me one moment and I will be right with you. Sorry, too many papers this evening.
Yes, the board packet was rather full.
While he's looking for that, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When is the normal facilities meeting? Is that always Wednesdays at 9:30?
Missy can tell you that.
Mondays.
I'm unmuted.
Mondays?
Yes, Mondays.
Mondays at 9:30?
Mhm.
Okay.
We can discuss a different meeting time if that's what would meet the requirements of the members, but that is the one that's on the books, and we have outside people coming in to present, so that would be a little bit of a challenge to change for this point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you all set, Steve, on that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dana, are you ready for 2.4 and 2.7?
Yes, I am. So you should have in your packet both policy 2.4 and 2.7. I will start with 2.7, which I believe is the carryover from last month. I won't read the entire thing, but I will read the portion that relates to the monitoring. And that's with respect to employment compensation and benefits to employees, consultants, contract workers, and volunteers. The superintendent shall not cause or allow jeopardy to financial integrity or to public image. And for all categories of compensation and benefit, they are reviewed periodically and have recently been examined for consistency at individual level for the current school year. And there are no violations currently to report. Further, the superintendent shall not change his own compensation and benefits. I have not done that in my tenure at the Career Center, and all compensation is negotiated with the board chair and between the board chair and the superintendent. The promise or imply permanent or guaranteed employment. No positions for employment have been offered without following the appropriate selection process, and no offers or employment beyond the current year have been extended. And the superintendent shall not establish current compensation and benefits that deviate materially from the master agreements. I report compliance for all negotiated agreements and compliance with the current master agreements that are in force. Number 4, the superintendent shall not create obligations over a longer term than revenues can safely be projected, and in no event longer than 1 year. Working with the business manager, now the assistant, the financial assistant, superintendent has tracked all regular and recurring obligations to ensure that they fall within established parameters. Superintendent also receives monthly updates and reports from the financial assistant at this point in time and our consultant regarding all material statements of the current budget. And you have a summary paragraph at the end based on February 28th information. The general fund revenues stood at $3,137,141, or 82%. Last year it was 81%. Expected receipts of $3,829,000. That's the current budget for the year. Expenditures for the same period are $1,960,000, 51%. Last year, I believe it was at 52%. And when expenditures are taken with encumbrances at $1,339,367, we are left with $529,000 remaining to be spent. Very much in line with previous budgets at this point in the year. As of January 31st, the BRF had a reconciled balance of $73,792. Without a business manager, Shane did not have the time to reconcile the bank statement in time for this to be published a week ago. So we will have an updated one at some point in the future, and that will be reviewed at the probably our next facilities meeting.
Thank you.
Suzanne, do you want to make a motion for one report and then we'll do the other one, or how do you want to handle that?
If the board is okay with it, could we do a motion to accept both at the same time? Okay. Dana, continue, please.
Thank you. So the second one is financial planning and budgeting. And once again, I'll read the beginning constraints, and then I'll do a brief overview. You also have the full reports in your packet, I believe. The superintendent shall not cause or allow financial planning for any fiscal year or the remaining part of any fiscal year to deviate from the board's approved budget, risk financial jeopardy, or fail to be derived from a multi-year plan. Further, there will be no financial plans that risk incurring those situations or conditions described as unacceptable in financial conditions and activities. So there are no violations to report of the prescribed financial constraints as outlined in monitoring report 2.3. That was last done, I think, in December. And the financial, actually, that was presented in January, sorry. The superintendent will not omit creditable protection of revenues or expenses, separation of capital or operation items, cash flow, and disclosure of planning assumptions. So all of our revenue are monitored through internal controls. Our funds are received, most of our funds are received from districts and the Agency of Education through electronic transfer. Assessments from other schools do come in the form of checks occasionally. Each deposit is recorded and classified according to our chart of accounts. And if there are cash receipts, when they are received for revolving funds or student activities, they are counted by two parties. Operating costs and capital expenditures are separated into two different ways. First, by account classification, and then by the coding in our system that corresponds with federal guidelines. They are all of the capital expenditures are tracked through the chart of accounts, but also through our bank reconciliations on each account. We have a purchase order system and a requisition system that allows for all expenditures to be pre-approved and to check that there are sufficient funds for those funds to be expended based on programs. Cash flow is monitored on a routine basis and to ensure that there are sufficient funds available to meet accounts payable. Next, number 3, the superintendent shall not provide less for the board prerogatives during any school year than is set forth in our governance policy. The current fiscal budget provides the same, actually, additional funding for board prerogatives with all of the grants that we have procured in the last year. They help make up for any decrease in the budget. If you remember, the budget was down by about $34,000 from 2021, but we are still able to cover all of our needs. And we've had a few additional grants that have allowed for gear and Perkins in particular that have allowed for additional purchases of equipment, supplies, and materials for a variety of our programs. That's all I have. So I can report compliance with both of these monitoring policies.
Thank you. Board, may I have a motion to accept 2.4 and 2.7, please?
Nick is muted, but he was trying there. Nick, you're
So it's
muted.
been
So moved.
moved by Nick. Do I have a second?
Judd, second.
I have to laugh. Kim is doing second, and you're like here. And you're side by side on my screen.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Sort of, it reminded me of. Moved by Nick and seconded by Judd to accept 2.4 and 2.7. Is there any discussion on the motion? Or any questions for Dana about either of them before we proceed to vote? Nick?
Data is not directly related to 2.4, but we were promised at the last board meeting to get the auditor's final report. I don't know where you are on that, but I think we should not let them slip through the cracks.
No. In fact, Nick, thank you for asking. The auditors are still working. They gave us some updated documents just recently, and that's up to me and Shane to do final review, and then they will be able, hopefully, to finalize that. So I expect that we will have their final audit and recommendations at the April meeting. Apologies, things got a little bit delayed.
That's okay.
Over the course of the last month.
That's okay. Shane's pretty busy.
He's very busy. He's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or concerns about either of the reports before we proceed to vote? I see heads shaking now, so we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of accepting 2.4 and 2.7, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion's passed. My pile to work through was getting shorter. WIB members, as Dana mentioned, I thought that I had a WIB member to bring forward for tonight, but at the last moment, that person that I had backed out, citing a bad experience that they had on a previous board and didn't feel quite ready yet to jump into another board. So they asked to withdraw from consideration. We did speak at the ACWA, the Addison County Workforce Alliance meeting on Wednesday. And again, emphasized that these two positions are WIB positions and that they own them. And they were going to put things out through the Chamber of Commerce, I believe it was, in their newsletter, trying to find some WIB members, but I believe that we have one person sitting online that might be interested. So hopefully if we do a nice job tonight, we might have a WIB person coming next month. So that is where that is at. So if anybody knows of anybody that's interested in joining a board, we had told ACWA that we were looking for somebody in the agricultural world and the medical world. But, you know, if we can't find anybody for either one of those, then we've got graphic arts, we've got culinary, you know, we can just keep going down the list till we find someone. But that is where that is right now. Dana, did you want to say anything else?
The only thing that I would say, Suzanne, is yes, I think we are lucky that we have people who are interested, and hopefully we'll be able to expand that interest. The only area where I think we're well covered is in construction tech. So you may know somebody in that field, but that's not something in terms of diversification and representation of across sectors. That's the one area that I can think that we might not want to look for representation, but hopefully we'll have healthcare covered in the not too distant future. And like Suzanne said, those other areas, we have 13 programs. Someone who represents one of those other 10 programs would be a welcome addition. And we are looking for agriculture if we can find someone in that field, simply because agriculture is big in Addison County and it is one of our largest academies. But we can certainly do visual arts as well, or some of the other fields.
There are strings that And so if anybody wants to know more, and I won't take the board time to go through it, but if anybody wants to know the requirements to be a workforce person that's on our board, reach out to me through email and I'll send you the requirements.
And Suzanne, I can put the packet together if you and I talk tomorrow, and I can get you all of the things that I've been distributing to folks who have expressed interest. So
Great.
they'll have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that action should be postponed till next month. I don't know if you need a motion to table to April.
Board, would you like a motion to postpone until next month, hoping that next month we have someone, or do you just want to let it slide?
Let it slide.
Just let it slide. Just let it slide. Next on our agenda is the superintendent search piece. I sent you all information from the VSBA as well as from McPherson Jacobson LLC, who is McPherson is basically a huge headhunter group out of the Midwest that their reason for thriving is doing superintendent searches and fulfilling those. The reason I went out and found you too was because when I spoke to the VSBA, they said that at that point in time, they were already doing 11 superintendent searches. They knew that there was probably going to be at least 14 coming. And they only have, I believe I was told, 4 facilitators that facilitate the superintendent searches. And obviously they're already booked, and they were not really sure how much, how the search would work if they kept adding people onto their limited facilitators. So I'm not really sure how you would like to proceed with this conversation, board. I mean, we can discuss both of the proposals. You can what would you like to say? Sorry, the dog is barking. My husband just got home and he's probably helping the dog bark more. So how would you like to proceed, board, on, would you like to converse about each of these proposals, or Nick?
Missy's got her hand up. Suzanne.
Oh, sorry, Missy, and then Nick.
Okay.
I guess I was going to ask before we talk about that, because I saw that some of the work is working with the board to develop goals and kind of setting the expectations for the superintendent that we're looking for. And I wondered if any of those materials were available from when we did that for Dana's search, because I feel like a lot of that work is still pertinent to the search that we'll do going forward.
So Missy, in regards to that, I have reached out to both the VSBA and Jason, and VSBA told me that there were no materials. And Jason is thinks that he destroyed everything that he had. So I met with a dead end on both pieces. So I don't know if there would be anything at the Career Center anywhere. Dana, in any of the file cabinets, would there be anything?
I am not aware of anything at the Career Center related to my search.
Do you keep any records from the committee meetings that might be still minutes available from then? That might help.
So
That predates my arrival, I can check with Patrice if you like to see if there are minutes from those, from any meetings that would have occurred prior to my arriving.
Okay. Or if Patrice doesn't have time and if you can give me a file folder of a time period, I can look through it and see if I can find any committee meeting minutes.
Those prior to my arrival minutes were all hand done. There was very little digital online archiving. So I will have Patrice check
Okay.
the physical folders.
Okay.
Suzanne,
Yes.
I'd like to point out that you skipped an item on the agenda, so make sure you go back to it.
Did I?
Information technology.
I don't have information technology on my agenda.
My agenda says under action for WIB, the next item is hiring information technology instructor.
Unless you printed, Suzanne, the draft that we were working on and not the updated agenda item, I don't know.
The one I'm looking at came with the packet for board members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Suzanne should finish whatever she's working on and go back because that's going to have to be tabled anyway. I don't have anything to report at the, well, I can do a quick report, but there's no action to be required this evening. So.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to point it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Sorry, it's not on mine, but thank you for letting me know that I have the wrong agenda.
So do I.
So the other, so if we can continue looking for information that we have from last time, but I'm thinking that time is of the essence. And so I'm thinking that if the board feels comfortable making a decision tonight, we should decide which way to go. Nick?
So before we get to that, could you give us a little background on McPherson and Jacobson? They seem to be a pretty big organization and they can do everything. But I did notice they don't have consultants in Vermont. So
that is correct.
How did you get hold of these people, and do they have any reputation you can share with us?
So I was given their name by several people. One of them happens to be the firm that represents the board, has done work with this group in working with them on hiring other superintendents. Another person that had that I had reached out to about board searches, you know, who's out there, they had suggested this group. And then I also reached out to Burlington School District because I knew that, you know, they'd had a little bit of a mess with one superintendent, and then they had gone through another recent search.
Yep.
And so I asked them who they had used. And this was the group, so 3 different people, and this was the group that they had used. They said that the person that had been in charge of the superintendent search at Burlington School District no longer works in the district, but others that were there said that they were happy with the way the process had moved and how the candidates had been presented and all the background work that had been done on the candidates. So they said that that was, you know, what they could give where it came to anything more in depth, like around billing and different pieces like that, that person no longer is there. So they could not give me any real deep knowledge, but I do know that from my friends in the Burlington area, they are more than happy with the superintendent that this group found for them and that they have since accepted. So that is what I have found. I like I said, when I spoke with Sue from VSBA, she did tell me that they are really overwhelmed with superintendent searches right now, and that she would try to find us someone that maybe didn't have so many searches on their plate. But I think last count, we were at 12 superintendents and more coming. So.
And they're all probably looking in the same type of area, maybe.
Yeah.
Just
And the proposals, as far as money, if I was reading them correctly, and Nick, I always refer to you because you catch things that I miss, but I'm thinking that they are not too far apart in dollar values.
Yeah, that's what I saw. 8,500 was mentioned both times, I think.
Yep, and then
but there are exclusions in the McPherson-Jacobson.
Yeah.
I think we would want to limit how far they went into the post, because they have add-ons for
right.
the evaluation.
Yep, they do.
I'm not sure we need all that, but we'd have to dig into the details a little more.
So Suzanne, the VSBA version also recommended that we have a contingency for some other items. I wasn't quite sure how many of those might or might not have been included in the other proposal. It was a little hard to tell whether VSBA plus the exclusions was not exclusions, but there might be comparable to the other one, or whether we would have to add the contingency items onto the private firm's proposal as well.
I do know that when, and Sue didn't put this in here, but when I talked to her and she told me that if we wanted to do a nationwide search, anytime that we asked the VSBA to put the description anywhere else, that was an additional cost on top of what they've quoted. So they don't do that submitting information without a fee. So
that's the VSBA or the private folks?
That's the VSBA.
Okay. Will the private firm also post on School Spring?
I believe they will, because that's where the Burlington superintendent position was on School Spring. It was also on Indeed.com and a few other sites that I just happened to stumble across it.
Right. I mean, we can probably do that ourselves, right?
I think that what we want to do, that would be like a conversation with them as to, what pieces can we take on and help with, and what pieces they have to keep in their parameters.
I guess I'm just talking about who has access to School Spring to put stuff on it. And we would have access to School Spring.
We have access
to School Spring, yep.
Yeah, so that's not an issue, right?
Right, so that could be posted whenever the board believes it would be appropriate.
Right.
I guess just to respond to that, I do like the idea of the McPherson consultant. It's different, it's nationwide. It does feel like a turnkey process, if you will. And I think after the last year, this board has dedicated quite a bit of time to a lot of different things. And I'd be okay with paying for that extra support. And I wouldn't want to jump the gun by getting a position posted until we do the pre-work and exactly the professional that we're looking for.
Any other thoughts or?
I agree with that.
I agree with Missy on that too. I think we need to make sure we're shooting in the right direction before we throw money at things.
So how would you like to proceed on this? Would you like to vote and say which are the proposals you'd like to go with? And then I can ask them if they can be present at our next board meeting via Zoom, and we can have a conversation with them as to how the process will proceed, or?
Yeah.
I'd move that we go forward with McPherson.
So do I.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And move, seconded and thirded to
All
go fourth, okay, to go forward with McPherson and Jacobson LLC for the superintendent search.
I think it's more of a fact-finding, further information.
Okay.
They offered to come and meet with us, right? So I'm sure they'd be happy to do a Zoom.
Okay.
And we
So is the
before we
motion
commit,
then as a fact finding? Or is it to, how do you want the motion read, Stephen?
I think we should just make a motion to engage, to sign them up and get started.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why we should delay.
Okay. So the motion is to move forwards with McPherson Jacobson LLC. Is there a second to that? Missy?
That was my second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on moving forward with McPherson and Jacobson?
Suzanne, you had a motion on the floor already from Steve.
Which I was thinking we were kind of amending because I wasn't really sure what because then Nick said something and I thought that what Steve wanted was the McPherson and Jacobson. That's why I asked him to.
I understood that. I thought you were asking him to clarify the wording of his motion. So you don't need another second is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So is there
I think she was just confirming that the second understood the clarification.
Yeah.
Nick, do you want to discuss your
yes,
invitation?
I mean, I think I'm along the same lines as you are, Steve. I would just like to understand this proposal. I mean, I read it a couple of hours ago pretty quickly, and I think it would be helpful to, and they offered to give us an in detailed analysis of what they would do. And I mean, it's a competitive market, so they're probably not the only ones in this business. So it would be nice to hear I think it would be nice to hear their outline of what they're proposing in more detail and just and see the consultant they're talking about and maybe hear of some of their successes. But we could do that fairly quickly.
Yeah, if they're going to.
In my prior life, I would not have engaged a headhunter without meeting with them. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, in looking at what VSBA was proposing to do and what these folks are proposing to do, it looked like essentially the same track of process with, obviously some differences, but for the most part, the outline was about the same. unless we want Suzanne to go out and look for, another couple of consultants.
No, I don't think we need to do that.
Then
But
there's not much to compare, and it sounds like the VSBA is a little bit overwhelmed, and I know what that's like in my own profession right now, and that results in not optimal job performance sometimes. So I'd prefer to have somebody who's got the horsepower at the moment to make things happen.
No, I agree with you. But I mean, I don't think it has to be a board discussion. Maybe it's Suzanne talking to them in detail, understanding better what they're proposing with one or two of us prior to the next board meeting or in the next couple of weeks.
Well, if folks feel like that's a prudent step, then they could certainly vote the current motion down, and we could maybe pick this up again, next month.
Dana?
I just want to point out that if you do accept the motion, if you vote on the motion favorably to what has been proposed, you can do an informational meeting and get what I think Nick is looking for, and that will save you additional time, I believe. And otherwise, you're waiting to the next board meeting, then having an informational meeting, and then getting started, and you lose a month of valuable time, because right now is a critical time for being on the market for searches for any employees in school districts, particularly senior leadership. So my recommendation would be that you move forward with somebody now and get the informational
if the information for some reason turns out to change our minds, then
we can vote it down.
We could say, hey, look, so sad to get you started, but we're going to move in another direction. But I think we should move in a direction.
Are there any other comments or thoughts on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain for the moment.
Okay. The motion has passed with one abstention, which was Nick. If the I will reach out to them and ask more questions. I will see if they can even maybe do like a Zoom call between now and the next board meeting, so that people can get a little more comfortable with it, and maybe even get some more clarification as far as how long they think the search might take and such.
Good.
Yeah, I think they did give a rough estimate. But...
Yeah, rough estimates.
Pretty rough.
Today's market.
I think a lot of that probably had to do with just when we were willing to get them started. So.
Yeah. All right. So Linda, what did I skip over, please?
The item on the agenda that you missed is hiring information technology instructor.
I move we table this.
It's been moved to table. Is there a second? Kim has seconded. It's been moved and seconded to table the hiring of the info tech instructor. Is there any discussion?
How does
Seeing none,
act? Sorry, it's Missy.
Missy.
I just wonder, how does that impact Dana's planning and moving forward?
I thought he said he was not ready to deal with it tonight anyway.
I heard that too.
He's muted, Dana.
Dana, come back.
Sorry, there are a few more details that need to be tied up before I could bring somebody to the board. So we did this ambitiously, thinking that we might be able to tie it up tonight, but we're not ready. So we do have we have some time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on postponing the hiring of info tech instructor to whenever the administration has a name to come forward.
It'll
Maybe
be
next
April.
month.
Yeah,
April?
it will be April. Yep. We're hoping to have hiring for more than one position in April. So
Great. All right. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your Zoom hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Capital project, next steps. Woo-hoo. Who's gonna take this one on? Missy, Dana?
I'll say a few things. We were congratulated by Mike Davey and the EEI team, and Eric Lafayette will be their project manager, connecting with us. And he's given us a few items to look at between now and our next facilities meeting. Eric and Mike Davey will appear at our next facilities meeting on the 28th. And they're going to have some things to help us with setup. One of the things that they did ask is that there will be some the costs that might be incurred over the course of the next month prior to securing any funding. And so the question was to have a motion for a BRF allocation that could be available for them to do some setup work prior to getting the funding. That would all be reimbursable. But it would allow for a little bit of cash and liquidity in the meantime.
And Dana, would it be helpful to cite the value that they're asking for?
I think that in speaking with Suzanne, it was up to but not at $50,000. So we're looking at $49,999 as a threshold, not to exceed that amount. And then that way we can remain in compliance with a lot of contractual and statutory obligations. Mike has said that given the fact that this was a performance contract, we shouldn't run afoul of any amounts, but that is a safe number that we could use in the meantime.
So then I'm guessing I should make a motion to allocate $49,999 from the BRF to be used for a cash fund to support pre-project work, which would be reimbursable once the bond funds are available.
Is that a not to exceed number?
Not to exceed, yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Whoops.
Go ahead.
Kim seconded your motion. Now, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say the way that we've been operating the BRF works really well to allocate it to a project. The money sits there, and then needs come out of that, and at the end it's reconciled, and any money that's not needed is returned to the general BRF fund.
Great. Is there any other questions or discussion on the motion? Nick, do you have any?
No, it's a good thing we've got 49,000 in the berth.
Well, technically, Nick, we have a lot more than that. We have, because of the vote, the article vote, we now have over 200,000. So, I mean, I gave a report on the most recent account balance, but based on the articles that were voted at town meeting, we have another 175 that we can add. So.
Yeah, I think actually, Dana, we do need to move those funds, because I don't think we've moved last year's funds yet into the berth.
I think you may be right, and those
So
were something
I
that I
think
was.
we need to put these funds into the berth so we have some clarity.
We'll be happy to take that up.
Yeah, thank you. But we can discuss this at the next budget.
So just to clarify, Nick, the monies are available and can be expended. It's just a question of the physical movement between the two bank accounts. Just for
yes, I know
clarification.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. I think we need to discuss the financial implications of this next budget and policy.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay.
I think it's on the agenda already.
Because I think we need to look a little bit even beyond that to see what's coming down the road.
Happy
and
to put
maybe
it
we
on.
can have a joint meeting with the facilities at the end of the month. It might be useful, since Judd is on there anyway. So.
Feel free to join in at 9:30 on the 20th.
If it's at 9:30, sorry, I'm already in another meeting, so I can't join, but join away.
I have another meeting too.
I'm more than willing to start at 6:30 in the morning with you guys.
Yeah, we used to be at 7:30 for facilities.
Steve, did you have a question or?
I was just wondering if Dana could send me the invite to the next facilities committee.
A big meeting.
28th, happy to.
Yeah, just send it to me so it's on my radar.
Yep, I'll do that right now, Steve, before I forget.
It's on the bottom of it's at the bottom of it.
I know, but it hits my phone calendar, and that's the only thing that
No,
counts.
we haven't. I have sandwich for you. So is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. I have not done a very good job of keeping us on task tonight. I'm sorry. We are now moving to the informational agenda. Board training. I believe everyone should have received from the VSBA the what they used to print it was a booklet on board member responsibilities and your roles and such. Came in the email. Did everyone get that? If not, I will forward my email. It's like a 111-page booklet. Please look through it. There are certain things that are very crucial within that booklet, and one of them is, and I'm going to say this right out front, is that a lot of people seem to think that as a board chair, I can make decisions for the board. I only speak for the board when the board authorizes me to speak for it, and I definitely do not make any decisions on behalf of the board without their prior approval. I may go out and gather information for the board, but there's no decisions on my part being made unless you tell me to do so. So, Career Center open house, March 17th. So exciting. Dana, do you have anything you want to tell us about it, or just be there?
It's an open invitation. We would like as many people to be present as possible, board members. We're looking for this being a very open house. We're excited that the masking protocols will be eased next week, and we're hoping to do a limited culinary presentation to welcome people to that open house, and we're hoping that it will be well attended. We will still observe appropriate protocols just to make sure that people are safe, but we're looking for this to be an exciting event that we haven't been able to have in over 2 years. So it is something that people are looking forward to, and there should be a lot of positive energy. The staff has been preparing, and we're looking forward to a great community event on the 17th. And we're hoping that people will include us in their St. Patrick Day revelries and come and visit us, and then go off and share the good work of the Career Center in all of the establishments that they frequent afterwards. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Dana. The other evening that the Career Center is open, and I encourage anybody that has anybody that's age 16 to 24, whatever, to come to the Financial Reality Fair. Sign up for it. It's online. It is between the Career Center, as the County Workforce Alliance. There's a whole long list of people that are all part of the group that are putting it together, and it's a great way for young adults to start their understanding of finances and what it might be like to have a job, and then to know you have maybe a car payment or a rent payment. And so students would sign up for a job. They'll be given a sheet that shows some expenses, and then they'll proceed through the fair. And there'll be help desks available, and lots of community members are participating. We will also have service organizations there, as well as employers there, so that students can maybe even sign up for a job if they find something on their way out. And again, the culinary students will be whipping up some goodies for those participants, and they'll get a goodie bag as they leave, which I know has been, I've spoken to several of my students, and I told them, I said, culinary kids are, they're making supper for you. And they're like, all right, sign us up. So if for no other reason, they're coming to eat what their classmates are making. So
Tuesday, March 22nd, 4 to 6:30, right, Suzanne?
Yep.
And right now there are 3 representatives. Suzanne, myself, and David Roberts will be volunteering at that event for participants in the Financial Reality Fair. And if you'd like to just stop by and see how that is going, feel free to do so, but no pressure.
And this weekend, there's the ART performance. Hopefully they don't get snowed out on Saturday. But that was also, I believe, in one of the reports. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to pull out of a report that they might need a question on or clarifying piece?
I did say a little bit about the Reality Fair, Suzanne, in my report. It was fairly lengthy, so take a few minutes to look that over, but there was lots of information that I tried to cram into my my monthly report this month.
Anything, board? Any questions? Steve?
Dana, on your staffing addenda.
Yes.
Do you have kind of a, is there a timeline you're up against here now?
There's no timeline that we're up against, but we're working diligently to hopefully have identified finalists and perhaps bring a couple of candidates to the board in April. So we're feeling pretty comfortable about where we are at the moment. And that's a bit of a relief. So
okay,
we'll be hopefully conducting interviews next week, or at least starting the interview process next week. And as I said, we have a handful for each category, and there are some very well qualified individuals. So we're excited about that.
Great.
Yeah.
And if we need to, we can go into May. That would not be a problem.
Nick, you're muted. Sorry.
Kudos to the Career Center newsletter. Fantastic.
That's Jay's coordination with many of the folks at the Career
Great.
Center. So thanks, Nick.
It's great.
Missy, did you have something?
I just saw Jay's hand up earlier, so I don't know if that was still outstanding. He put his hand down.
Jay? Like looking like I could see around the corner.
Poor Jay's on his own now.
Yeah, sorry, Suzanne, I just want to clarify, the ART performance is tonight at 7 and tomorrow at 7. It's not on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So if folks are waiting till Saturday, it will be over, so probably
And they don't
tomorrow.
have to worry about getting snowed out then.
That's right, yes, and if we can finish by 7, I'm hoping to go tonight, so. No pressure, no pressure.
Any other questions or kudos or? I would like to take this time, whoops, Nick, did you have something you wanted to say?
Are we going to go back to Gretchen's question at the beginning? You said you would about
Yeah. Yeah, so I did want to take this time to once again embarrass my friend Lorraine and thank her for all of her hard work on the Career Center board and all the committees she served on. And she certainly did. She was, how would I want to put this? She went out and recruited many people to help spread the word around the bond vote. And even to the point where she got one husband and wife to write a letter into the Addie Indy for us in support of it. And I just would like to take the time to thank you for all that time that you spent. And thank you for all of your help. And look, you're back here again tonight in the same chair. So thank you. So yes, the question about in person and what would the board like to do?
So we discussed this.
Well, I got Steve, then I got Judd, then I think Missy.
We discussed this at Mount Abe the other night, and they're going to mask optional next week. So the board decided to follow suit.
Okay.
The board has been meeting in person for a bit now, but it's been optional, hybrid, and I think it'll continue to be that way.
Okay.
I think the Zoom technology does allow a lot of participation by folks who otherwise would be disinclined to come or just can't fit it into their schedule.
Right.
So I know it certainly helps me out. But I also know people appreciate discussing things together in person. So
right.
I'm kind of open to whatever.
Okay, thank you, Judd. And then Missy.
Thank you. I'm interested in going back to in-person because I like in-person meetings, but I have to admit that after getting used to it, just as Steve said, there's a real value to it. So I think I prefer doing in-person, but it's not as though I'm strongly one way or the other.
Okay. Missy?
Let's see. I'd wonder why Gretchen was asking that, but we don't know. So I'll just put that out there. My second is I like the remote option because I'm able to fit it into everything else and without coming home really, really late. So I do prefer Zoom and would suggest that maybe there's a compromise for to consider, which is if we choose Zoom, or maybe it's, we can still attend Zoom, but then maybe there's designated meetings throughout the year where we say we're going to try to do in person for those meetings. It's planned ahead and it's not all meetings.
That's a good suggestion. Nick?
I like the idea of seeing people in person too. In fact, I was going to join Jay tonight, but I was just lazy and couldn't be bothered to drive half an hour in. But I think it would be nice to see faces in reality. And I think maybe you have a better discussion when it's in person. So I'm in favor of in person, and schools are back. Masking seems to be voluntary. So the rest of the world is trying to get back to normal.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering if we can keep it as, could we move forward with it being a hybrid, at least through the end of the school year? I mean, I know some nights, for me, I have student meetings right up until the time the board meeting starts. So, and I work from home on Thursday. So if I have a student meeting that gets over at 5, there's no way I would make Middlebury by 5. So that's why Zoom has been so great for me. But maybe we could figure out how we can, continue with the hybrid, and those that can be in person are in person, or we try Missy's suggestion and say, these 6, maybe we go with 6 meetings, we're all in person, and then the other 5 or 6, we're on Zoom or something. Or maybe we just say the winter months when it's really bad traveling, we're on Zoom. I don't know. Missy?
I would just add that if we're going to do a hybrid, and I know that's really strange, but I think the hybrid feels better if folks in person are on individual devices, as opposed to the way A208 is currently set up, because it's hard to hear people and you can't really see them. You just know they're in the room.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the hybrid, go ahead.
No, I was calling on you.
Steve?
Steve.
Okay. Yeah, so the Manabe's been doing hybrid for a while, and it is tricky. And it's only good the night that Neat TV is there with all their equipment. It makes it work really well. The nights that we have to kind of handle it on our own when they're not there, it struggles.
Okay.
And so it probably would be best to have folks bring devices and be on the Zoom individually, even though they're in the room. The trouble starts when everybody has their mics open and you get the mic feedback loop going with all the devices in the room. So it's a little difficult to work it out. So
yeah,
I don't know as I have all the answers.
Missy, I don't see any other hands before you, so.
I was just going to respond because I've experienced a similar thing that Steve was talking about. And what's worked well for us in larger meetings is you have kind of, we'll say the host or the chair in this case, but you also have a tech support person that is co-host, so that you have the ability to automatically mute people and can help manage kind of the Zoom room when those things are happening.
We do the same thing in ACSD. Dana?
A couple of things. First of all, I think somebody's idea about the winter time, you would not have to cancel meetings if you have the Zoom option. So I think that would allow for more consistency, which would be good. I know in my tenure here, we've missed, I think, 2 meetings as a result of really bad inclement weather, and that we could avoid. With respect to Steve's and Missy's comments, you can, we've done this in 208. As long as people are on individual devices and they mute themselves and turn off their microphone, then everything will be carried through the sound surround sound system in the room, and everybody could be on the Hollywood Squares like we are here, and the sound would be picked up by the internal mic in the ceiling. So that room is set up for that. Everybody would be heard, and then you could be on the screen speaking. So we can work that out, and we could do a little bit of a dry run at some point in time, but that would allow for the group to come back into in person. So whatever your preference is, we can work with you on that.
Steve?
Just curious, if we do go back to, if we go to hybrid and for some reason, say we had a meeting where we had bad weather, the state's going to be sort of been going back and forth about whether or not there had to be somebody in a physical location or not. Is that, anybody have any idea where they're headed with that?
We are
I haven't seen
currently in
anything.
compliance with that right now because Jay is our physical presence, and that will still be moving forward. You can't go fully remote. You have to have a physical location. So that would
Does that
need to
mean,
be.
mean somebody in bad weather has to drive into A208?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or stay in A208, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I would be happy to volunteer, but I don't think by the time bad weather comes around next year that will be
Right.
my place to do that. But that can be anyone. It can be somebody who lives next door, for that matter, or across the street. You just need to have a presence.
So do you want to continue this conversation, or what is your pleasure?
I think we suggest that we encourage in person next month. And
Okay.
still let it be optional for folks to join by Zoom.
Okay. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So
Let's see
I
how
think
it
Missy
goes.
just said yes.
No, I was gonna say, since we're in person, we could celebrate and have a culinary something. We used to get cookies and coffee.
We're not gonna get.
Well, also, if we're going to have new members next month, that would be a good
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And frankly, I have not been to an in-person career center meeting yet. So
You don't know how much fun you've missed.
you guys are all just figments of my phone imagination. So,
He only knows what we look like from here up.
that's,
It's probably a good thing.
And I know that Patrice has in the past gotten during that the meeting after the reorganization meeting, Patrice has everybody sign the school board code of ethics and takes a picture. That's what we've done in the past. So that would be on the docket for next month anyway. So as many of you who could be present during the April meeting in person, that would be great. Otherwise, you'll have to send us your own headshot and we'll add you to our archive library.
Good.
And do we have bios up for everyone? I think we do.
We will need to redo those after next month with new people on board, but yes, Suzanne.
Okay.
We did 6 months ago when Patrice pursued everybody to get one. So, but those will need
Except
to be
for me,
updated.
I'll be honest, I have not submitted anything and I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all right, Missy. We'll forgive you. You've been busy with facilities on more than one planet between the Career Center and the college. If there are no other questions, clarifications, uplifting comments on any of the reports, I'll move to policy 4.1 governing style. And Missy?
Well, if you don't mind, I could do both.
Okay.
So uplifting comments, I just want to appreciate everyone that's on this board currently and the year that we've had in the past. Despite some challenges, I think that we've all had really good conversations and stayed together and have done amazing work over the last year. And I especially want to thank you, Suzanne, because I can't even imagine how much time you've invested into all of these extracurricular, unplanned initiatives and needs. And I'm really pleased that you're willing to stay on as our board chair going forward. So there's that. And then as far as governing style, I do think we've got very efficient at meetings, even though they last a little longer than we think. We get through the topics, who has something to share about a certain item shares, and we make decisions and we move forward. Great job, board members.
Thank you, Missy. So we have one last item on our docket, and I think it may be relatively brief. And that is, we have an executive session on here for negotiations and personnel. So may I have a motion to go into executive session for those reasons?
So
Moved by Kim and seconded by Nick.
Can we release Jay? He's going to the theater.
Yes, if Jay makes me host, we can release him and he can shut down in 2:08 because I don't think there's anybody there. And we're going into executive session, so nobody could be there anyway.
Mhm.
So Jay, if you want to give me the hosting responsibilities, you're free to go to the play.
Thank you. I guess my only question is, Dana, will you create the breakout room then?
I will create the breakout room, yes.
Okay, because you can admit yourself if you need to then, I believe, so.
Yep, I can do that. Mhm.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the
Just
play.
Thanks.
Wait till I confirm that I'm host, Jay, and then we're good to go.
My screen
I
says
have-
you're now the host.
Yep, I have the breakout rooms, so I will assign those manually. All right, so this is, so Suzanne,
Yes,
besides board members, is there anybody else? Would you like me present for this?
yes, please.
Okay, so board members, I will assign you. Suzanne, Kim, Steve, Missy,
Suzanne, you still
Judd?
need to vote.
and
What?
Nick. Did I get everybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 board members, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
What were you saying, Linda?
You still need to vote on the executive session motion.
Yes.
Yes.
So we got. So all in favor, say aye. Or raise your hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Linda, I will get you the outcome.
Sure, thank you.
So
Thank you.
entering
So-
executive session at 6:47, is that correct, Linda? Is that what
Yeah.
we've got?
And
That's what I've got.
who do I get the beginning of the meeting from?
I wrote it down and I think Danny was writing, but I can get it to you.
I have some notes. Let me know what you need, Suzanne, and I'll get you that.
Send me what you have. I'll look at the tape as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.